I am not surprised that Mr. Bayo Onanuga wrote that message attacking the coalition. I would have been more surprised if he didn't write it. What do you expect him to do? He will protect the president that he works for. But does it mean everything he said there is totally correct? I don't agree with many things he said there, because if you are casting aspersions that these are politicians that have long left the APC, they can also make a counter-argument that the APC that it is today, that people like Mr. Bayo Onanuga and I enjoy the perks of, these were the same politicians that also played a formidable role in the APC and building the APC. Time will not permit them to be able to tell the story of the role people like Rotimi Amechi played in the emergence of the APC. And these were the same people that his boss, the president, were all allies with. But they've decided to go their separate ways. So I'm not surprised he took out time to have a rebuke at all of them. It is his job he is doing. But I would like to set some arguments straight this morning. Number one myth that they say, all of the people in the coalition are old politicians. They have nothing to offer. Let me go back memory lane. When President Tinubu now and his friends then formed the coalition against Jonathan, were they not old politicians then? President Tinubu was senator in 1993. Count from 1993 to about 2011, 2015. That was over 20 years. Was he not an old man in the game? We could have also argued that they've got nothing to offer. He was governor in Lagos. Why should we listen to him when he formed the coalition and they said they wanted to take Nigeria forward? This was the same President Tinubu that had even supported this Jonathan in the 2011 elections. Let's not forget, Jonathan won Lagos in that election. So that argument that they are old politicians, we need new faces, that's an argument that falls flat on logic. Secondly, the argument of, this new coalition, there's going to be disarray amongst them and all of that. Yes, there's a possibility to that argument. But a lot of people too said there's going to be disarray among these new folks when the APC set up there. But they had a way of cobbling things together and making things work. Number three argument is the argument that they make. They say, the agenda of the coalition is just to remove President Tinubu. They've got nothing to offer. Please, with due respect, what was the agenda of the APC when they came together in 2015? Was it not just to remove President Jonathan? And didn't they do with every means possible, blackmail and all sorts of things? The same subsidy they removed in this government, didn't Jonathan remove that same subsidy and they went on the streets and they shut the nation down for 12 days? You try shutting this nation down for 12 days in protest if the security agencies will not hound you down as we speak today. So Jonathan was very even receptive then than most of these same people that claim that they are Democrats. They shut this country down. Many times in my closet, I've asked Dr. Abati the kind of courage President Jonathan had to be able to see people shutting down the nation for 12 days and he wasn't moved to use the might of the security forces on them. And he knows I've given Jonathan his due recognition and praise for that. So all this talk of they are just there to uproot President Tinubu, wasn't the APC just there to uproot Jonathan? What was Jonathan's crime? I ask you. Yeah, what was Jonathan's crime? Let's argue it. So it's so easy to talk now. Oh, the economy was bad, there was corruption. Is there no corruption today under President Tinubu? And if you compare the economy of Jonathan to the economy of President Tinubu? So all of this talk, I just believe are sentiments. But what we must ask the coalition for is accountability and for the interest of Nigeria. And we must warn them. You can have multiple folds of political party and ideology and thought process, but they must never be like the same APC they are condemning. And the truth has to be said about them. We must hold them accountable. We must not ask for the blueprint of what they want to do for Nigeria and how they can sell their aims and objectives for Nigeria.
Yesterday I was talking about Act 1, Scene 1. I think now we have entered Act 1, Scene 2. In that Act 1, Scene 2, you may christen it the battle of the spokespersons. all the spokespersons on both sides are out on the field. On the presidency side, you have Mr. Bayo Ononuga, you have Sunday Dare, you have Felix Moka, you have other spokespersons for the party, including Dele Momodu. They are all out on the field. Bolaji Abdullahi was here yesterday to speak for the coalition. Nyesom Wike was on television to speak for the coalition. Everybody is just defending their own territory. Whatever they say is to be expected. The PDP says we have not made up our mind about coalition politics. APGA says, oh, we are going to grab governor of Enugu and the governor of Abia State before they too join the coalition. You know, all kinds of reports. Spokespersons for the Labour Party are saying Mr. Peter Obi should submit his resignation letter within 48 hours. A faction of the Labour Party is saying we are with Peter Obi on this side because, you know, what we're doing, we want to solve the problem of one-party state. We want to move Nigeria forward. Rotimi Amechi says, no, people are docile in this country. That's why APC is. So you just, you know, many voices, each person defending territory. What I think should be made clear is that there is nothing wrong with opposition politics. Sunday Dare may have argued that what happened in 2013 is not the same thing that the politicians of today are trying to put together. Because at that time, the coalition, the formation of the APC, he argues, was driven by national interest. And that President Tinubu leading the process at that time was a patriot, a nationalist. But these ones are desperados who are power hungry. Well, you know, it's all about the politics of power. But I think it's amusing to see the spokespersons who had, you know, gone, you know, less temperamental after the 2023 election. And they have come back because, you know, spokesmanship in Nigeria is a business, a category of its own. And the more loyal you are to the principal, the more noticeable you will think to be. We will see more interesting days ahead. But what nobody should do is to say people cannot express themselves or that people cannot make a choice. I mean, freedom of association, freedom of opinion. These are fundamental parts of the democratic process. And the sitting government, the presidency, and their spokespersons should not make any effort to prevent other people from making their choices. After all, it's a democracy. At the end of the day, it's the Nigerian people who will make a choice. We have to strengthen the institutions ahead of 2027 to ensure that the people of Nigeria are empowered to make informed choice. That's what all parties concerned should focus upon, not about their personal ambitions or emotions.
Coalition politics, a welcome development to pluralism, to have as many people competing in a democratic space as possible. And this cancels out the concept or the fear and worries that there's a degeneration to a one-party state, and it should be encouraged, and more players should be encouraged to come out. Now let's dissect some of the statements that have been made. First of all, I hope that sooner rather than later, we can migrate from the mudslinging politics of personal insults to debating ideas, the exchange and robust intellectual engagement that will allow people to decipher between those who truly are self-interested and are just clamoring for power, and those who have the ideas that can move the country forward. Having said that, we've heard on several occasions from Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, we have an idea of what their manifestos contained in the past, in past campaigns, but we still wait for ADC to crystallize what it really stands for. Ralph Aregbesola had made mention of a movement that's people-centered and that's deep and heavy on ideology. So we're still waiting for that to come out. However, it must be stated that coalition parties win elections. One thing coalitions are good at is winning elections. Whether they're good at governance still stands to be judged. Now, we give some examples, specifically in India, for example, where coalition was able to remove an incumbent party. That was in 2004, led by Sonia Gandhi. Here close by in Kenya, Mwai Kibaki became president after creating a coalition, the National Rainbow Coalition, in partnership with Raila Odinga, and that was able to unseat a 39-year incumbent party. However, if you look at both instances, as much as the coalition was able to drive sentiment to garner votes, when it came to time for governance, it was questionable and the coalition fell apart. Now, when we look at coalitions here in Nigeria, of course, we're not strangers to coalition. We saw how the APC was developed and how it won elections and how it was entrenched. And there are two major factors that are different in this particular scenario, because 2027 is certainly not 2015. What are the major issues? In 2015, there was immense sentiment around disgruntlement of zoning. So that zoning conversation was able to drive a lot of sentiment to the polls, and it was able to dominate conversation. That was number one. Number two, the APC was an amalgamation of political parties. It was not an alliance of powerful or influential political players. Now, this is one thing that I see working, it can work for or against the ADC, which is the fact that, yes, there are political heavyweights amongst them, but we are not seeing parties coming together as such. So yes, in Nigeria, we argue that yes, the individual holds the structures. They're saying that, for example, Ralph Aregbesola wants to use the structures that he has in Osun State. After all, he has used it in the past. But the question is, this is going to be the true test of whether individuals themselves are able to drive those structures, as we saw Peter Obi do in the last election, or whether formal party structures themselves will always dominate in this kind of playing field. Now, another elephant in the room is conversation around INEC. Yesterday, we had Dumebi Kachiku of the ADC claiming that INEC was to blame for some of the issues that he has been experiencing within ADC. Of course, we know that ADC initially was supposed to be ADA, but also there are still those accusations towards INEC's role in all of this. Now, we need to continue to pay attention to ensure that the hands of state capture are not entrenched on INEC as an organization, because the accusations continue to fly. And we don't want to, it could be one of two things. One, it could be these parties trying to discredit INEC in preparation for the election. Number two, there could be genuine evidence that there are issues around INEC, and those shouldn't be swept under the rug. INEC must be looked at.